Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning, Mr. James McInnes. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing wonderful, Tyler. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, it is so good to be on with a fellow large microphone enthusiast. You know, for those who are listening, I'll give you the visual. My man James here has shown up with a microphone, and his audio sounds like it. So thank you for reading the memo and showing up ready to speak the truth.
Yes, no, my pleasure. Want it to come through loud and clear.
Amazing, and you're doing that in spades. We met during Stampede. I had a great Stampede this year. I met a lot of really cool people, and we're going to talk about networking and interacting. And I say the word networking, and half the audience reached for the off button right there. But you've planted yourself firmly in a space that I think is going to be needs some exploration. You are the founder at Prompty. And I'm going to stop right there because I always like to let people jump onto the elevator with us. And we got a couple floors, and we just bumped into each other. What's a Prompty? What is that all about? And let's go from there.
Prompty, yeah. So what is Prompty? Well, I'll tell you a quick story. The other day was cleaning off my desk, found a business card that I had set aside to remember. It was a special one. I'm holding it up, covering up the details, but I'm holding it up here. And I looked at it, and I'm like, I don't remember this person at all, but I set this aside. So what do? I hop on LinkedIn. Okay, look up this person. The company that's on this card isn't even there. I'm looking at it. I look at the date I met this person because you can dig in on LinkedIn. Who is this? I still don't know. I'm still blanking. I'm feeling really, really stupid. Thankfully, I have Prompty. So I open Prompty. I start to type in his name. Pops up. I met Ahmed. That's the name here. Ahmed Wadan at the Startup Canada pitch tour. They had a little pitch competition, and it shows Prompty shows the date and the location that I met Ahmed. Okay, flip it over. There's the note I made. And the note I made was that he pitched right after me. Suddenly, it was like I went back in time. I remember his face. I remember seeing him. I remember the conversation. His wife was who I actually met first, Arwa. She was sitting on the chair next to me. After I came out from the pitch, I talked with her. They're from Egypt. It's like time traveling. That's what Prompty is. It helps you remember the people and the conversations that you've had, which is otherwise impossible. Like, we like to think we got to steel trap, remember these things, but like, this is a guy that I had a great conversation with, not only him and his wife, and this was like 3 months ago, and I have this paper card I set aside to remember. I used a tool like LinkedIn. These are not built to help us remember, and so that's why I created Prompty, to help you remember the people that you meet and the conversations that you have, so that we can create a meaningfully connected world guided by relationships and not transactions.
That was maybe one of the most effective narrative elevator rides I've had in a long time. Most people give their pitch or their value prop. You actually told the story, which from a marketing perspective, everyone goes, more about storytelling. But then you actually did it, which I really appreciate it. You talked about a couple things in there that really landed for me. One, which I think is very powerful, and I do it, you externalized memory by putting the card on your desk as a reminder. Mm-hmm. But it still had to tie to something as I'm pointing to my CPU, topping myself on the forehead, and going, oh shit, I put this here for a reason. So now I'm frustrated. And you made a comment, which I think is powerful. I kind of feel stupid now. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like there's a blank. So talk to me. Let's go back. Let's rewind. Let's go back to that sitting in that chair, meeting his wife, meeting him coming off the stage after his pitch. Give me the mechanics. How did Prompty, did you physically have to put it in? Was there just a scan and a note that then created a folder that you populated afterwards? Talk to me a little bit about the mechanics. I'm diving right into the weeds, but I really want to unpack the how of what you were able to create, which the outcome sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, there depends how deep in the weeds you want to go, because you're talking with the founder. So you're talking to the guy who had the idea 2.5 years ago to create a system that can allow people to leverage this power to unlock their memory. And maybe we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about the mechanics
let's
talk
about the mechanics. Yeah, agreed. But we'll get into the neuroscience of memory here in a bit. But yeah, let's save that for later.
So I did my pitch. You got 1 minute in this room there's 5 different tables, each with 2 judges. You do your pitch, they ask you a minute of questions, and then you leave the room. So I left the room. I sit down on a chair next to a lady, and we start talking, and she's telling me about how her husband just went in to pitch. And I'm like, oh, that's super cool, and ask about her company. And she tells me. And then she asks me about mine. And it's super simple for my company, Prompty, because we have either a QR code on my phone, or I have a near-field communication, an NFC card, or magnetic badge. I'm wearing both, of course. I just pitched, right? So I'm like, she says, what's your company? I'm like, oh, it's Prompty. You just tap this card. So it's that simple. I hold up my card, and I'm wearing it as a name badge, so even easier. She just presses her phone to it, her Apple phone or Android. I think she had Apple at the time, can't remember exactly, but she tapped it. It opens up my little profile. Looks like a card on her screen, and that kind of exists called digital business cards. But what makes Prompty unique is that if she has a free account, we are immediately connected and added to each other's digital Rolodex on Prompty, and it shows where and when we met, as well as we can make the private notes. So what she did, she tapped my card, she clicked sign up because she was interested, took her 30 seconds, used her Google authentication, so it even populates her profile picture and whatnot, and now we're connected. It shows the date and the location we met because I had preset, I was meeting people at Startup Canada Tour. So everybody I met that day, it populated that we were meeting at the Startup Canada Tour. And then on the back,
it's not using geolocation. It's actually using
correct.
The fact that you said, I'm going to be at X event today.
Right.
You just basically click that, created that category before you entered the event.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean,
Okay.
geolocation's the goal. Geolocation's also a little messy too, because if you're in multiple floors of a building, and geolocation doesn't tell you events specifically, that sort of thing. So users can populate, you can edit it, and that's no problem. But, in the future, we'd love to see where you get some suggestions. Are you meeting at this event? Like, we'd use AI, could actually pull from.
Well, you were at BMO Center. Okay, well, which time and for which event and which part of it? Yeah, like there's that almost creates more opportunities for blank spots.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that's how easy it was as I connected with her. And then her husband came out, 2 minutes later. So all this happened within the span of his pitch, because by the time he comes out, she's already onboarded onto Prompty and she's locked into my memory now. And not only can I remember her better, but she can remember me. And that's something often forgotten when it comes to business development and, meeting people, is you don't just need to remember them and follow up. Like, you want them to remember you. And Prompty helps with that. And so, of course, Ahmed, her husband, comes out, and then she's super excited to tell him about Prompty. So I'm pretty sure she pulled up her own QR code on Prompty and said, scan this, and you can create your account in 30 seconds, and we can use this for our company because they do offshoring of software development. And so they were working with the name at the time, and Prompty is great because say you change your company name in a week, or you change your company email or your website, you just update it on Prompty instead of printing out a bunch of physical business cards. Then now you have to go and reprint them, and often entrepreneurs will just postpone the business card printing because they're not sure. Even just before we hopped on the podcast, you're telling me about a friend's company that needed to change their name. And that's pretty common, but with Prompty, you just change it, and it changes retroactively for everybody that you've met previously. So now they get the most recent updated version of the information you've chosen to share.
Well, but I'm going to play devil's advocate because that's the fun of the long form conversation that we're going to get to have.
Love it.
Why wouldn't I just use LinkedIn? I got it open on my screen right now. I've got your name pulled up. It's got some information about you. Isn't there already a solution for this problem?
Yeah, that's a great question. Pretty common one.
I think you may have heard once or twice before.
I hear pretty commonly. Yeah, why didn't I just use LinkedIn? So not everybody uses LinkedIn, and the vast majority of people actually don't like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a strange place, and when you actually get to talking to people about LinkedIn, it becomes pretty apparent how challenging it is to actually form authentic relationships and even to present your authentic self. So, I mean, we can dive into that a little bit, but I mean, the easiest way to qualify this is if you were to open up your LinkedIn right now and just scroll down and randomly select one post. And can you tell me who that person is and how you know them? I know for me, and I've only accepted for the vast majority of my time on LinkedIn, I have 1,000 connections now. I've been on there 2 years. I only try to accept connection requests from people that I know. And even when I see them in the news feed, I'm not entirely sure, and so sometimes I'll need to check on Prompty because I'm like, I think I need to remove this person. I think this maybe was somebody that I didn't connect with and might have been a sales rep, and I added them in like my first couple weeks because I was trying to get more connections. And I'll check on Prompty, and I'll say, oh, okay, yeah, I actually did meet this person. Or you get a connection request on LinkedIn. So say, Tyler, like you meet a lot of people, you're a podcast host, right? You go to a Stampede event, and you come back and you got 30 connection requests on LinkedIn. How are you vetting those requests? How do you know that these are people you met, and maybe some of them are just people that are trying to pitch you their business and they're not even from Calgary and they're from somewhere else. They never met you, or they're just trying to get into your information, or they're just, and this is a common one too, they want to be on your connection so that when they reach out to somebody else, you are listed as a mutual connection. And that's a common strategy to get people of influence on your LinkedIn connection so that you can now send other people requests, and they're more inclined to accept because they see, oh, this guy knows Tyler. Okay, I guess I'll give him a shot. And then next thing, bam, hey, do you want to buy your extended life insurance? Or, are you looking for
I've
sales?
had that happen when I've met someone, they're like, oh yeah, we know these same people. And they've listed off a bunch of people. I'm like, I don't know any of those people. Well, they were connected to you on LinkedIn. I'm like, but it's funny. I've had that happen where it's been said to me in that context of like, oh, so-and-so, so we must be good. And I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about. It's this kind of situation. So yeah, absolutely. I've been in that cycle.
So that's kind of the outcome. But I mean, at its core, LinkedIn is not a platform to build authenticity. You only need to present a certain side of yourself. Like, don't speak badly about your employers. It's kind of like a resume, right? Like, you're not going to express your political opinions and other things like that. You're only going to say positive things about your employers, or if you're going to say something negative, you got to be very, very cautious because now it's out there. You might not get hired. And it's kind of an extension of what Instagram and Facebook have done to an entire generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like we see how people only present the best side of themselves, and it creates isolation and comparison and all these facets. We're seeing it in the business world, which the platform itself is also predatory in many ways. You need to pay to message people, and that sucks when you're a student and you don't have any money and you're new to the platform and you're trying to find employment, and now you got to pay $25 a month if you've subscribed for a year, right? Like, how much are you putting out of your pocket as a student just to be able to message people on a platform that the people you're messaging are already getting flooded by other people who have paid, other students who have paid, right? It's a way to get money, and it's really not a system. And I'm not trying to fault the system itself. It's the business model, right? Like the way the business model works for a lot of these social networks, it's your attention on the screen, and they want you to be spending time scrolling. They want you to come and check to see every time if somebody's liked your post. They want that. And then there's a documentary called The Social Network, I think, or something like that.
I know. I was about to quote it. You're going heavily into that territory.
Yeah.
If you're not paying for it, you are the product, right?
Exactly. And LinkedIn isn't immune to that. Nope. We like to think it is. We like to think, okay, so it's a business side, it's a business thing, but what you actually see is adults kind of becoming like teenagers hooked into Instagram and like addicted, except now we're adults and now we're like justifying it because we're like, oh, this is business development. Oh, we're on here. And this isn't to say.
Do you mean to say that adults can also get addicted to dopamine?
Yeah, we all have it, right? Yeah, you got it.
LinkedIn has done a very good job of still not looking like and feeling like you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook or you're on TikTok, but there's a lot of aspects of it, from the reward and the quick gratification that it does. Absolutely, you can fall victim to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're a content creator as well and you're putting out content on LinkedIn, it can be really interesting. What I still like about LinkedIn is, we've been doing a lot of really compelling content lately, and I only say compelling because we've been getting tons of comments, and they are people that I recognize sometimes, not always, but the ability to get into a dialogue with them, I've actually enjoyed. But I've taken the time to also do that deliberately. If someone said, hey, I liked your post and here's what I thought about it, boom, and then engaging in a dialogue personally, which doesn't feel like Prompty isn't trying to replace that. I'm thinking about it from, I'm also putting out content, which I'm a small percentage of the contributors that do that. Most people are kind of quote unquote voyeurs to the content that's there.
Yeah, and to go back to your question, why would I use Prompty instead of LinkedIn? They're complementary. So Prompty makes your LinkedIn experience better, and so it's actually beneficial to use Prompty as that first point of contact for a few reasons. One, it's relational, and so it gives the prospect, the person you're meeting, whatnot, a way. They get to choose to interact how they want. If they have an account or they want to create one, great. Then you're instantly connected. You have your socials on your Prompty, so they could just then connect on LinkedIn. Maybe you have your Instagram or other ways that they can now choose to connect. In those ways, they can download you as a contact to their phone. So it's more relational. It's also more inclusive. And so I remember when I was talking with Ian McDonald here about first time I met him, and we actually got connected through LinkedIn. Like, he was posting about his involvement with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. He's a big brother in that, and I actually grew up in that program. I had a big brother mentor, and so LinkedIn is very valuable too. It has its uses for sure. I'm not trying to knock LinkedIn, but Prompty is different. That's actually how I got connected with him, commented on his LinkedIn, and then we met up in person. And what really stuck with him and why he got and uses Prompty and was excited about it was a very inclusive way to share your contact with somebody, like in the moment. And so I said, I'm like, imagine I come up to you and we're having a great chat, and I pull up my GitHub and it's on my phone, and you're like, what's GitHub? I don't use that, or what even is that? Like, I brought him to that moment so he could like express how he would feel in that moment, because that's often how people feel, especially Indigenous communities or marginalized communities. You go to an artist community, like you go to the Western Oasis at Stampede, and it's all these artists, artisans. Nobody has LinkedIn there, and you pull up your LinkedIn to connect. It's like, no, that people are gonna feel small. They're gonna feel inferior. They're gonna feel left out, like maybe confused, maybe frustrated. Like if somebody really doesn't like LinkedIn, like there's people out there like that. Believe me, I've met them. Now you're putting them in an awkward position. And so that's where something like Prompty is really nice, because it's inclusive. It's like, here you go. You can, when you hold it up and the QR's on there, it shows all your social links, whatnot, and they can see what your card looks like. So they can choose to engage with it. And once they scan it, they choose how they engage afterwards. It actually also isn't just inclusive. It isn't just building relationship. It is also helping you vet or qualify this potential prospect, lead person in terms of how you want to follow up. And so with Prompty, it's great. Maybe we're going to talk about the pancake, but, I met over 500 people, 311 tapped the pancake, 176 created accounts. And so over 11 days, you think 500 people, that's a lot of business cards. What are you doing with all that? Well, it was literally less than 20 minutes after all was said and done for me to go and send an email out to each of these people, personalized email, using a tool like Prompty.
So just to be clear though, Prompty is the starting point of the customer journey for Prompty is an in-person interaction. Is that correct?
Generally, yes. So
right.
Generally, if you meet me on the street and we have a great conversation, we want to exchange information, Prompty is the point to do that. Now, our business model is largely through the events and conference industry. Okay. So our ideal first touch point is from somebody trusted, such as an event coordinator, an event that you attend, a community leader, somebody like that, saying, hey, we're using Prompty as our networking platform for this event or for this community. And so it's coming from somebody trusted, and then you get to experience Prompty in this perfect little microcosm. Imagine if everybody in Calgary was using Prompty. So you can, when you're ready to connect, you just tap their badge or scan their QR code, and you're connected with the information you choose to share. It's very secure. Well, that's a lot of people. It's over 1 million people in Calgary. How do we make it? How do we get everybody on there? Well, we can do that at an event. You have 100 people there. Now, everybody, because the coordinator's communicating it and it's their networking piece, everybody chooses if they want to or not. And so you end up in a room with the vast majority of people who have Prompty, who are wanting to connect, wanting to use a secure tool, wanting to build relationships. And now they get to use Prompty to do that. So, two ways that you generally get onboarded onto Prompty. One, you meet a Prompty user on the street, and they're like, hey, let's connect. Or you attend an event that's using Prompty. And what's cool about Prompty, it's not an event app, it's a relationship manager. So it's agnostic to events. You can go to any event. You could be on the bus. You could be at the beach. Doesn't matter. You can use it to connect with people, which is what makes it very unique and different from event apps, which people don't use after an event ends and are challenging to create sustained relationships.
Is your foundational kind of customer profile for this? Are you starting with it because it sounds like it's viable for everyone and it's inclusive, which I appreciate. It does feel like the business community might be the ones that might latch onto this sooner. Maybe a more of a perceived need. I'm deliberately going to a quote unquote networking event to meet people.
Yep.
Maybe I'm frustrated with LinkedIn, meeting people at an event and someone like, oh, just give me your phone and type me into your LinkedIn. That is a completely useless strategy.
Yeah.
Especially I have 200 to 400 requests on my LinkedIn at any one time. Like staying on top of that is almost, it just doesn't happen. But I see this as also, I'm curious about two things. Is that your kind of, initial primary ICP versus tertiary? And then also that adoption piece, creating the habit, opening LinkedIn has become a habit for me. So it's very easy that it's always a browser window that's open. How are you thinking about, I left that event, I interacted with Prompty for the first time. I'm a business person or someone who's looking to network with that community. How do I then get that adoption and get them to actually start thinking about it and kind of keeping it top of mind in the world of apps?
Yes, two excellent questions. So the first one about our ideal customer profile.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to reference a Japanese philosophy called the Ikigai,
Mm-hmm.
and that is and you've done so many podcasts, you've heard a lot, but in case any listeners aren't familiar, it's about finding your purpose and your calling at the intersection of 4 points, and the 4 points are something that you're passionate about, that you love to do, and something that you're actually good at doing, something where a market exists, and something where that market is able and willing to pay. And that's that fourth point there, where the market is able and willing to pay. That's where the primary target market for Prompty is the networking events.
Okay.
And when you look at the conference industry, people pay these $1,500 ticket prices. Why? Because they're looking to network. They're looking to generate business. They want a return on their investment. How they do that is human-to-human interaction, generally. That's pretty much the standard there. You might go to a consumer electronics show to see some of the new technology. Cool, okay, we've maybe found some new suppliers, but the real value is in the business that you can generate by talking with other people. The partnerships that you form, the memories you make, they're going to be with somebody else. Like when you look back at your life and think about the most important memories, those like big moments, somebody is involved, whether it's directly or indirectly. There's another human involved in those moments.
Nothing much in life happens without a relationship somewhere, somehow, in some structure.
Exactly.
Sure. I'm my archetype. I'm a co-creator. Everything in my life that has ever been of any value was co-created with another person. So
yeah.
You're preaching to the choir on these ones for sure.
So your second question, how do we get into people's tech stack? So like Tyler, we're using Riverside to record this. You have LinkedIn open all the time. You have your email. You have a lot of tech that you're using, right? And this is one of the challenges for us, is because we're not a business model dependent on people being glued to the screen, coming back to the platform a lot. We make our money three ways. One, buying a physical product. So you like the platform's free. You sign up, you use it to manage relationships, and you want to upgrade, get a physical product. So we have a card, can have your company on there. You could get a magnetic button that you could also get your company on there. And now any article of clothes turns into an interactive company branded article of clothing. So this is physical products. Number two, sell to events and communities so that they pay per user in their event directory, which people keep in perpetuity. And then the third one is a subscription model for extra features and that sort of thing that you can get. So the only one of those three revenue streams that is like pretty proportional to retention is the third one, and that's sort of our future goal. Like we're not there yet, and we're actually trying to capitalize on the second one, which is the event and community integration piece. And the first one, physical products, is our early bread and butter. It's what's getting us by, because we're a digital platform, but we also have these physical products which help. We're trying to remove the friction of in-person networking, and we leverage the technology to do that. Right now, the near field communication is at a really adoptable point. Like almost every smartphone out there can utilize this piece of technology. So it's really good timing for the near field communication. But you're starting to see AI glasses come in, right? And so our digital platform is creating that data foundation so that once we have facial recognition in your AI glasses, you can then go to an event and it can see Tyler's face, and then it can remind you, oh, here's Tyler. You met him at the Stampede Tech Showcase on this date. You've been on his podcast. And it can like maybe recite the notes or whatever. You could ask it and that sort of thing. Or you can have a near field communication ring. So I'm constantly getting the samples and testing out the new technology coming out on the rings, because that's a really unique form factor that especially universities, they have the X ring. It's like, oh, this was your ring for your graduating year and this sort of thing. But if you can have near field communication in there, now it's kind of like a non-fungible token. It's something that's like very unique, but it's also your way to connect with people. And I'm always staying up to get date on the gadgets and ways that we can further leverage this technology. But yeah, it's a digital platform. You don't need to always be using it, and that's fine if you're not. I think we want people to, because the relationships matter. And so that's really where we're trying to frame it and help people recognize the pain of their current situation. And that's why our biggest competitor is the status quo, right? You have your LinkedIn, you got your 200, 400 requests. It's just, you're just used to it because that's how life has been. But that's why we're hopeful. Like, you come to an event that's using Prompty, you experience it there, and it's such a transformational experience in the sense that afterwards you're able to follow up with people, you're able to remember them, you're able to reference your LinkedIn connection requests to your Prompty connections to know who you've met. And as you start to do that, you start to recognize the value, and suddenly you have those moments like I had with that business card, or like when I sat at Speed Networking and Braden Clark sat down and he's like, have we met each other? And I'm like, I'm not sure. Let me check Prompty. I type in Braden. Bam, there it is. October 24th, 2024, House 831. We talked about Dungeons and Dragons. Suddenly, both him and I are back in that moment. We're reliving that conversation. And before Prompty, we would have been spending the day. Did I know Braden? Have I seen that guy? I feel like I don't know. Right? Yeah.
Talk to me about the research that you did around the psychology of the friction, the gap that, of authentic connection, and also some of the, you say networking to some people, they immediately cringe. Like there is a triggered response that happens. So we're going to go to a networking event. I'd rather poke my eyes out. Clearly this was a big part of your research journey. And ultimately, but if you ask anybody, do you value authentic relationships? I would guess the majority of people would say, yeah, I actually do value that.
Yeah.
But yet the thing that it takes to often create it, which is putting yourself out there, feels risky, feels scary. And there's an argument that, we've got a generation now that has grown up even more in front of technology. My nephew going to college, university during COVID, that was a terrible experience.
Yeah.
Kind of pulled himself back out of society really quick. Like, there's so much generational side of it, but I know people my age and younger and older that cringe at the idea of networking in any shape or form. And some of them are a little bit technology fearful as well. So there's a weird kind of double kind of dichotomy there working against you. But talk to me about it, that research journey that you went on to really understand how this is going to get cut through and to your point earlier, remove that friction.
Yeah. 3 points I want to bring here. First off, networking is not working, as you said. It's not working right now for many people. And even for the people who feel like it is, and they say, I got my Rolodex. I met these people. Like, they're the veterans. They have, 5 or 6 Rolodexes on their desk, one for each day of the week. And
the word Rolodex is a giveaway that they also are veterans, right?
Right. So they've really had to MacGyver some solutions. And the challenge is that not everyone has that time, or depending what your business is and your role, you don't have that. And even so, these MacGyver, people that are veterans, like, they're also pretty extroverted. They are confident, able to go out there, meet people, and do this. And generally, their role in the business is business development. But like, for an entrepreneur, your network is your most valuable asset. It's your most valuable resource, I would say. It's a multiplier for your time, your money, and your knowledge, but you're so time constrained. And you need tools to help leverage this. And we look at our generation too, with technology, wanting to leverage it and find ways to be efficient. The dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. So how do we get more dollars to pay the rent that keeps going up, or these grocery prices, et cetera, right? So networking is not working. And I recognize that at this, I don't want to say the start of my entrepreneurial journey. We haven't really talked about that entrepreneurial journey, but yes, that there's 3 points. That's the first.
James, that's why we have an hour, because we have a lot of things to talk about.
Okay, excellent. The other 2 points are that trust is the ultimate human currency. So there's 3 key points. First being that networking is not working. I recognize it was broken. 2 is the importance of trust. How imperative trust is to forming relationships and connecting. And then the third piece is perspective. And perspective is the most powerful psychological force, in my opinion. I believe that it underpins everything that we think about. Your motivation, your discipline, your purpose, your passion, like, all these things are shaped by your perspective of the world, of your day, of every moment. And so if people listen to this podcast and they leave with 2 things, and I'm sharing 3, but 2, it's trust, the importance of trust, and the power of perspective. And I guess we could have opened with this, but we dove right in. But now's the good point. You've made it this far into the podcast. Reflect on these things. Think on these things. And I want to make sure that, what I'm talking about is really highlighting these points, because they're imperative in anything that you do. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working in tech, whether you are a stay-at-home mom and you're listening to the Curious as Hell podcast because you're curious. Amazing. Respect to you for doing that. But trust is essential, and it is changing how it looks, but it's not changing in its importance. So AI, that's what I did my master's thesis on for my MBA, was examining trust amidst an age of AI. So I've done a lot of delving into this, help to validate the need for something like Prompty or a way to build trust. And then, perspective is just a theme in my life that has been very important in this entrepreneurial journey, because it's hard being an entrepreneur, and perspective really
understatement of the
helps you helps you get by. I grew up in foster care, and my perspective early on was very much that I need to shape my reality. Like, no one's going to make my decisions for me. I need to make my decisions, but I can't make these decisions independent of the people that they'll impact, which in foster care and growing up was, I didn't really have that biological family to know that would always be there. I had a big brother through the Big Brothers program, which I mentioned earlier, and he was somebody who was very impactful in my journey and helped to shape my perspective that I didn't want to disappoint him, and that there are people who care in the world. And bringing it to today as an entrepreneur, I used to use this example when I was a youth leader, but somebody could come and they could hit you, and you could be very upset that they would hit you, or you could be thankful that they acknowledged you and that you exist. You're able to feel that, like somebody came and hit you. There's, of course, that's an extreme example. Generally, you don't want to be thankful, but there's every situation. There's a silver lining or a perspective on it. It's actually a legitimate business strategy about turning your weaknesses into strengths, framing them as strengths. So, for example, a lot of technology products tout all their reviews and a million users, all this. Well, Prompty's new, and so how did we say that we're new, but make that as a value proposition? Well, we're able to say the first 1,000 or 10,000 users get the Pioneer badge, in-app Pioneer badge. And then it's kind of like with youth, you can never go back in time. I keep telling my daughter, my 4-year-old, she has a superpower that everybody older doesn't have, is that we'll never be young like her again. So even in just like a family relationship, personal life, you're able to really put a positive spin on things that would otherwise be viewed as a weakness. Or like my daughter says, oh, I'm too small, I want to be bigger. But when you just always focus on being larger, you lose the gratitude and the appreciation for the moments that you are in.
So I'm curious, you've been at a lot of pitch competitions, taking back to your initial story that you led off with. Yeah. What are some of the perspectives that you run into from that, with that filter, that you feel are either limiting or holding back, or maybe not being used as the superpowers that they are with other entrepreneurs?
I love this question, Tyler. I love how you're able to kind of hear what I was saying and then apply it like immediately and in such a impactful, like I feel really valued because a few things. It ties into the perspective of exactly what you just did. You heard me and you responded in a way that made me feel heard and understood. And that's a perspective that is really lacking, I find, in entrepreneurs, especially at these pitch competitions. And understandably so, because we're there as an entrepreneur, you're pitching your company. You've been practicing, you've been rehearsing, you've been studying it, and you go in and you present, and you're like, okay, I did it. Like the weight is off that I've done that. Now I'm here. Why am I here? Generally, it's to continue that pitch. I've practiced it. I've refined it. Let me go pitch to, a bunch of people in the hallway and keep doing this. And we're very good at sharing our idea, practicing our idea, right? You do an incubator, you do all these things. They help you refine it. They help you talk about it, all these things. They say that marketing is talking and sales is listening. And so that's great. As an entrepreneur, you're marketing. You're talking about your stuff, right? And that's what you did in the pitch competition. But as soon as you're on the floor, as soon as you're face to face, it's really important that you listen. And that is how business is developed. That's how sales happens. That's how relationships form, is that you listen. And that's exactly what you just did there. You listened to this perspective piece and you asked me. So that is my recommendation. And even going back to that story with Ahmed and Arwa, is as soon as I left that pitch room, I didn't sit down and start telling her about my company. Or oftentimes people leave the pitch room and they're gone. Like, I don't know where they went. They went to watch a keynote or went to go to the washroom because of the nerves. There's a lot of things. For me, as soon as I'm done my pitch, my job is to go and help the other people who now have to pitch. That's how I view it. So I go out in the hallway and I start asking people, do you want to share your pitch? You want to run it through me? You have any questions before you go in there? Now, Arwa, she wasn't pitching. Her husband was. So it was a unique situation where I actually just got to talk with this person. But majority of the people I talked to that morning, they didn't get to really hear about my company because I was having them practice their pitch on me. And I was giving them a little feedback, or like mostly positive because it's like last minute. They're about to go in. But I'd say, I would just change this one word. And just because it's like, it's a triggering word, and they'd be, I appreciate that so much. I'm going to do that. And that's really what I think. That's how we create more value in the world, is by going out and listening and really caring about people. And so that's a perspective that entrepreneurs can have, is that the value that you're creating in the world is larger than the product or the service you're offering. It's you. It's your ability as an entrepreneur to take risk and to go out into the world and do things that so many people are unwilling to do. And honestly, statistically, it doesn't make any sense. You look at the number of companies that failed, you look at the amount of work you put in, all these things don't make any sense. Why would somebody...
On paper, it does seem foolish, yes it does.
Yeah, why
There's a 99% chance you'll die on this expedition. Oh, sure, let's go. This sounds great.
Exactly. Yeah, and we lose
I'm
that
curious, how do you balance out... I got two questions. I'm bad for doing this, and I'm aware. I'll ask you two things that are related. One, when you're busy doing that, which I love, and I really appreciate the way you shared that, and I think you're right. It's waiting for your turn to speak isn't listening, and it's certainly not caring.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, how do you then also give that other individual an opportunity to do the same thing with you? So it is, so they have the ability, they've listened to this podcast, they run into you, and you're trying to out support each other. That's a fun game. And then also, some of the things you have heard from those people where they're like, hey, I want to contribute, I want to give to you. What are some of the things that have made you go, oh, wow, I need to shift how this like from a product perspective and a fit perspective, how do you create the space for them to do it for you? And then how have you taken some of that information and then applied it directly to the product and the services you offer?
Yes, exactly. Perfect. They're kind of related. They're obviously related, but it's almost the same answer. So when you think of making friends, for example, so you go to a party, you go to a board game, you play a sports match, whatever it is. So for me, I grew up playing soccer. So I think of like, okay, I'm on the soccer field. I got a soccer team. And there's certain people you resonate with more than others. And you'll hang out with them more afterwards because you connect on personal interests or political views or whatever it is, right? You're not going to be best friends with everybody on that team because you cannot be. There's not enough time in the world. You don't have enough emotional capacity, all these things, right? That's very similar to when you think of networking or going out and meeting people. And when you talk about like out supporting each other and all this, it's almost like validating who your best clients are going to be or who your best supporters are going to be and also who you can best support, right? So I am more than happy to listen to somebody talk for 5, maybe not 10 minutes, but for 5 minutes, and they don't ask me anything about myself and whatnot, and then we part ways. Well, that's okay, because that's probably not somebody that I want to do business with. And that's okay. That's good. In sales, my sales coach, David Cree, he was telling me it's about getting to know the fastest. The sooner you can get to know, the better.
I agree.
So you're able to be very efficient.
What do I pay attention to and what do I not? And the quicker you can make that determination, the more efficient the whole thing will go, for sure.
Exactly. So when we think
takes a lot of practice, I find.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's actually kind of how you sort of vet people and whatnot, just naturally. And Prompty is a tool that helps you to do that efficiently because it's a way to exit conversations too. especially at events, using it. You say, oh, hey, this is a great chat. I want to go connect with some other people. But then they're like, hold on, you didn't get to tell me about yourself. Or what about this? Sometimes they won't. They'll forget in the moment. They'll find you again and they'll say, hey, sorry, I was very curious about this. Or they'll reach out on LinkedIn, and that helps to build that authenticity. But a lot of people don't even do that, right? We can talk about Derek Havinga, who actually introduced us.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so he's somebody who is very supportive and the one, like a type of person you talk with right away, and you're like, yeah, this is somebody I want in my network that I want to like keep connecting with. And
he's instantly a likable cat for sure. He's a great guy. I was just going back and forth with him on Instagram last night about something. I saw his post, and then we got into a little chat, and it just always makes me happy talking to Derek.
Yeah, and who isn't? Like I know. His posts are amazing. He's Inbound Labs is his organization, and he models it perfectly. Like he's an inbound king. Like I find a meme. I saw a meme with a John Cena tattoo because I know he's got lots of tattoos, and so it's like
he does.
The joke is that as they wipe off the lotion, there's nothing there on the arm because John Cena's invisible, right? And so I send it to him, and I'm like, new tattoo idea, and just having somebody that you can send memes to and whatnot, and somebody that I've only like met in person like probably 3 times, but the first time I met him in person, like you're like, oh yeah, this is somebody I want to keep in contact with. We'll connect on LinkedIn and whatnot. That is what Prompty helps you to do in the ways that I was describing. So it provides an exit point, allows you to connect with more people, so you can find more. It's challenging saying qualified in terms of relationships. Qualified is generally in terms of like business development, like qualified leads, but in terms of like potential friends or potential like partners in business and qualified connections. I don't know.
I think that's a really good example you used. For anyone who doesn't know Derek, I would implore you or give you the opportunity to go, who do I run into? It's like, oh, that person just can go to an event and they got people talking to them. And there's often a narrative like, oh, I'm not like that. I can't do that. That's them. That's a superpower they have. Mm-hmm. What I heard you say very quickly is like, Prompty helps fill in some of that for maybe those of us who aren't the Derek Havingas or whoever in your mind's eye now you're envisioning of this super networker, instantly likable, rapid rapport, their ability to just connect on a human level. I know a lot of people that immediately look down and go, that's not me. I'll never be that. What I heard you say is, well, yeah, and we built a piece of tech that can actually help you do that.
You nailed it.
Just to play with that a little bit.
It's exactly what it is. Yes, because I was that Derek Havinga person at the entrepreneurship group where I first had the idea for Prompty. And all I did was I wrote, because I'm ambiverted, but I'm generally more introverted.
You're a very flexible introvert, I might say. But, yeah. You're an introvert with extrovert. What is the joke? Introverts unite alone by ourselves at home. Yeah. I had a buddy who was a senior leader, and he struggled with a lot of the things that people would associate with a quote unquote leader. Yeah. He struggled with because that was an extroverted leader profile. He was a very caring, very authentic leader, very effective strategically, but he wasn't gregarious. He wasn't outgoing. And he shared with me often that he struggled in his career because he didn't meet what was a alleged framework or model, but yet he excelled in those other areas of connection and personal relationships. He just didn't do it in a gregarious outbound way.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective on that. I was at this entrepreneurship group, and all I did was I wrote down everyone's names and businesses as we went around the circle of 20 people at the start of the group. And so I kind of was able to remember them. And the following week before the group, I just had that paper with me, spent a couple minutes looking through it. Okay, here's the names, businesses. So when these people show up, I'm able to remember them. I'm able to connect them. I'm able to ask them meaningful questions. Whereas the majority of people only remembered 1 or 2 because they exchanged business cards or they did LinkedIn, or like they used methods that really don't help build that authenticity and help reinforce your memory. And that's where I had the idea for Prompty was at that point. And so I looked at, okay, what can we implement in the group that exists? There's got to be solutions for this. I did a deep dive. I looked at over 60 digital business cards at the time, looked at event apps, all these things, and realized how fragmented it is. And there really is no solution in this space for this valuable problem, this really impactful problem. Like there's a loneliness epidemic announced by the United States Surgeon General 2 years ago. Suicide rates are through the roof. Like it's a really dangerous and trying time, and it's largely propagated by the degradation of authenticity and of trust.
It's amazing. I put myself through flight. You're just taking me back to, where did I become better at this? I'm never going to say the word good at it, but better at it. I put myself through flight school and college working behind a bar.
Yeah.
And there was no better place that I didn't hardly know any of their names, but I knew what they drank. Yeah. I knew who they were. I knew something about them. It was the kind of bar. It was a high-end bar off the west end of Montreal in the island, a small town called Hudson. Very affluent town, a lot of pilots, business people. Like, it was just an interesting crowd. They'd come in, and if it wasn't quiet, you had a lot of one-on-one times. You'd get to know these individuals. And the direct correlation between my ability to go, oh, hey, good to see you. Here's your drink. Hey, last week you mentioned you were dealing with this. Boom, my tips doubled. Easily.
Yeah.
And that was at 20 years old, that was a very transactional way to go, oh, this is a very rewarded behavior. I do this, I get this. And thinking back to 20-year-old me, getting hit with it like a sledgehammer, coming from a rural environment, being social, being outgoing, being a good communicator were never things anyone talked about. But I very quickly went, oh, this equals dollars. And it's actually significantly more enjoyable. And I look back to my journey, I always look at people fondly when I see in the resume that somewhere they were in the service industry.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes these skills, either you excel at it or you don't. And if you do, you will be richly compensated in those, in those very transactional space. Your attention, your kindness, and your care are rewarded. Maybe not now when tipping is expected, but there was a day, I won't get into a rant about tipping, but there was a day where I could see if I kind of didn't deliver on a certain table or on a certain guest, I would kind of be okay to not get a tip because I know I didn't show up for them.
Yeah.
They might have just been the one that was too busy when you're in the juice, right? So I'm taking myself back to my very early days, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to try a drink sometime if you still mix them.
I do occasionally. Don't drink them as much as I used to, but I'm into cooking now because it's still the in service of and making a meal for people, and that feeling of, hey, I know what you like, and I know who you are, and I know what you care about, and here's a thing I made for you. Putting that feeling into it, I've fell in love with that over the last kind of 5 years. But it's similar, same but different. Yeah. But apply that to business, and I think we're kind of talking about something very similar.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and Prompty is it's kind of like, instead of becoming a bartender, create this free account on Prompty and start using it when you're out and about. Start to associate these conversations and these memories with a person, a human. You make your notes on Prompty, right? And it's all tied to that person, that human. And you start to rewire your brain to think more about people as opposed to terms and rationale, logic, I don't know, all these things that actually come
back to relationships and trust, exactly what we started with.
Exactly.
What is the psychology, and I'm sure you've got into it around, and I've heard different ways described, why people struggle to remember names? Because I interact with you and I run into you, and you're James, and you're a guy with a pancake, and I'm so busy thinking about my narrative and my own insecurities or my own story that all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm James, and it goes whoof, right over my head. Have you unpacked that a little bit? Like, what the F is actually going on there? Yeah, there's a lot of research and data on this that I won't fully delve into. I'm not a doctor in this space, but we do actually have but I play one at pitch PhD that we consult with. And he is in the cognitive aging space. Okay. And so what he does and what his research pertains to is, like, as we age and our mind deteriorates, like our ability to recall short-term information becomes less powerful. How does that work? What is making our memory stronger when we're younger, and how do we improve it as we age, and what are tools we can use to help empower our memory? And there's, I guess, a couple things I'll mention that we use in Prompty. So we use the location aspect, and so that's sourced in the theory of loci, or the mind palace theory is more of like the modern term of it. And it is a kind of like using locations as a way to mark information, but mentally. So I did this during my MBA. I'd listen to my textbooks as I was walking to the daycare to pick up my daughter, as we'd be going to the park. I'd be listening to a textbook as I'm mowing my lawn. So I have all these bookmarks in my mind that right now I can't remember 3 years worth of it. How am I going to recall that information? Well, let me think of my front yard. Okay, I'm in my front yard mentally right now. Right by my eavesdrop is where I learned about the bionic duckweed, the concept that organizations will often defer investment into technological solutions because they're like, there's always going to be a new solution, so let's just wait.
And that theory is called bionic duckweed and, all this stuff. Or, by my tree at the front is where they were talking about barbers in Japan and how they actually created this more efficient way to barber and anyway. So all these things are locked in. All I just think about is now my yard or like the streets, and suddenly I'm able to access, like, as I'm doing this, I'm getting like a flood of everything very specific, and even color coordination and how that impacts your memory and these sorts of things that I've learned on these walks that I'm able to recall just because I put myself on the walk. And so we implemented that in Prompty by using the location. So it shows where and when you met people. So that's exactly what happened with Ahmed and that business card, where I'm looking at it and there's no context. Okay, the name isn't connecting for me. The company name isn't. Let me look on LinkedIn. Doesn't show where I met this person. It's still not connected. It shows when. So maybe I could go to my calendar and pull all that up, try to find the location. And that almost gets me there, because when I opened Prompty, it did show the location, Startup Canada Tour. Almost got me there. When I flipped it over and the note said he pitched before me, that's the trigger. So you look at all these little hooks. That's how I like to describe it. They're almost like neural hooks, like the branches, so you're able to grab onto the branch to actually get a firm grip on it. If it's just a completely smooth branch, it's going to slip through your hands. But the more protrusions there are on it, the easier it is to stick in your hand, and you're able to hold on to it. Okay, now I fully remember, and I'm brought right back to that moment. And that's a psychological tool that Prompty uses to recall that information. It's very powerful, very effective, and it's really transformed the way that I'm able to connect with people. And it's something that I wasn't fully aware of when we started this platform. All I knew was, here's the problem, that networking is not working. And I started to explore solutions. Like I remember we brought in pens and papers for everybody to use to write stuff down, but people weren't really writing stuff down, or what they're writing down wasn't effective to help them remember. Like, we almost need to prescribe the solution in a way that is minimal friction. Well, it's efficient, enjoyable, and secure. So it's efficient. So there's minimal friction, right? It doesn't have to. It can't be too painful to use, because we're competing with status quo. Like, we're competing with comfort. So it needs to be not so uncomfortable people are unwilling to do it. It needs to be enjoyable. So something that they want to try, they're curious about. It's almost fun in a way. Apple's perfect example of how they make text messaging enjoyable. I don't remember if you remember the old phones with the.
I do.
The text.
Dude, I've been around for a while, my friend. I've been around for a while.
I remember getting those flip phones, and that's why I bought the first iPhone. I imported it from the USA and jailbroke it for specifically the texting, so I could text faster, because I need to respond to people quickly. And I was working at Dairy Queen at the time, and you're not allowed to have your phone on the chef line. So I'm like, I only got a 15-minute break. I got to text all these ladies back. How can I do it? So it's
all about the right motivations, my friend. It's all about the right motivations.
And then secure is the last one. Trust, right? Like, especially in this space, trust is the ultimate human currency. And if you're not secure, if the platform feels unsafe, people are not going to be trusting it, and they're not going to be wanting to use it. Like, why would they? And trust takes a long time to build, and so security is our other tenant. So it needs to be efficient, enjoyable, and secure. So that's another
if you take those three from a psychographics, demographics, or back to your ICP, ideal customer profile, is it an age range? Is it I skew younger and I like this sort of thing? Or is it a belief set that can be 50 years old or 25 years old? If they believe and value those three pillars, it really doesn't matter kind of where they sit. They will resonate with the platform. Just thinking about, and you shared this with me a little bit after your Stampede, people are like, oh, I'm not into that sort of thing. Yeah. It's just a weird comment. It's just that's just kind of a lazy wall to throw up. But I am into this type of thing. So I'm very interested. But if you give me those three things, and have no fear of technology, or I have respect, but not scared to try it, I feel like I would be a quality candidate. And age or gender or psychographics or demographics starts to fall away, and it becomes more about shared belief. But that's my understanding. What's been your experience?
Yeah, well, what people say and what people do are different things.
Touché.
So people like to, they'll see those three things and they'll say, well, I don't care about security. Like, that doesn't really, that's not a big thing for me.
and then I'll say, okay, well, can I have your credit card then? Or like, what's your PIN? Do you mind just telling me your PIN? Oh, no, I couldn't give you my PIN. This doesn't, I don't do this, but like just playing out the
I love it.
Like, and they're like, suddenly, oh yeah, actually security does matter to me. But when they think of it in terms of just talking with somebody and connecting, they're like, oh yeah, security doesn't matter. Like, I'll hand out my business card and it'll have all my information on it. And I don't know where that's going and what you're going to do with it, but I won't tap your card or scan your QR code because I don't know where that's going to take me. And so it's like, it's interesting because you see, I want to say a polarity, or like they don't align, like what they're saying doesn't necessarily align with the actions. Mm-hmm. And so it's challenging to gauge just from an engagement, like a conversational perspective. And so that's why we actually look at the data. And so the pancake campaign was a way that, and for those unfamiliar, I took a pancake that was made on the first day of Stampede, and the goal was to introduce this pancake to 300 people and have it make 300 connections during the 11 days of Stampede. So I was wingmanning a food to show people two things. One, how hard it is generally to strike up conversations, but then also how easy it can be at the same time. Like, it's about raising awareness about the challenges of in-person connection, but positioning Prompty as a solution.
You pick such a great backdrop to do it in too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Stampede.
Yeah.
Or it's networking. Is it a drunk fest? Is it biz dev? Like, what is it? Like, what actually is going on here? Is it a tribute to Western heritage? I don't know. Not some of the events I went to, but yeah. Anyways, I thought it was. Yeah. And again, Derek Hovinga goes, "Hey, you got to meet this guy, and James, and you got to meet his pancake. Yeah. It's Prompty. It's awesome. I'm not going to tell you anymore, Tyler. You just got to meet him." And that was literally 5 minutes later. You walked by, so he told me about you. Of the legend of you, and then you showed up like across the room. He's like, there he is now. Let's get him over here. Like, that's how that went on the outside. Just to give you the perspective from across the event.
Oh wow, no, that's really cool. Earlier question you asked is kind of still resonating with me about the psychological tools we use and like how our minds work to remember things. So I also have a stage name, which is Peter Pot. It's like Peter Pan, but a pot instead of a pan. And when I go to an event and I'm a performer, I introduce myself generally as Peter, because if I say my name is James, the worst is when they introduce me in front of the audience, like thousands of people. Here we got, coming on the mic, we got James. And you YouTube James, you're not going to find me, right? That doesn't help. So that's why I generally introduce myself as Peter. And what ends up happening is that people who know me as James and Peter, they remember me like almost 100% of the time as either James or Peter. They remember one of the two, compared to when I introduce myself, "Hi, I'm James," and I shake somebody's hand. You're right. It goes over the head. We forget. And so I actually started experimenting with it. I would start to introduce myself as I'm James or Peter. And they're like, well, which one is it? And suddenly...
Oh, that's great. I love that. Oh, nicely done.
Yeah, they're able to remember me really well. And kind of like those hooks, those neural hooks, the more associations you have with yourself, with that person, can help to build that memory and that connection.
Well, you also created a break, right? You created a little speed bump. You created you created a reason for me to go, what's that again? Yeah. And that little, it's almost a pattern interrupt or a break state that you created in there because you broke the standard. "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm so-and-so or such and such." What do you mean? That's a beautiful psychological. I did a lot of work in neuro-linguistic programming when I was younger. And that pattern interrupt and that break state of just causing somebody to go, "What?" and to skip a beat is incredibly powerful to get a little bit of cut through.
Yeah.
No, breaks the pattern. I love that on so many levels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You got it. Yeah. Other things to say, but I'm looking at the time and we got a lot of fun stuff happening.
And hey, pause here. Hold your horses. Performer. I know what this is, so I love it. And we're going to work it into, so who the heck, if I search Peter Pot, which I'm going to do as soon as I get off this episode, Who is Peter Pot? He's also known as James McInnes.
Yes. So I started beatboxing in high school. I was making some sounds in class. My peers in entrepreneurship class of all classes said, "You need to look that up on YouTube. It's called beatboxing." YouTube was kind of new at the time, but I looked it up and saw people making music with their mouth. And I said, wow, they have a mouth and they could do it. I have a mouth. I could do that too. because I grew up in foster care, so instruments. I didn't have a guitar, like piano. Like you need the instrument, you need lessons.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like excuses or barriers. Whereas as soon as I saw beatboxing, it's like I have that instrument, and it's clear they weren't taking lessons from professionals, or these were the professionals, like pioneering the art. And I said I could be one of those people. So I just started beatboxing and practicing it, and I was able to bring a lot of joy to people in the hallways, on the buses, and car rides, just making music anywhere. It was a lot of fun. In 2008, I won the Stampede Talent Search, which brought me to the next level. Wow, I got $4,000. I got to go on the grandstand. I was in the newspapers. Okay, I can be paid for this talent. I can make a job out of this. Why didn't they teach me this in school? Like even in entrepreneurship class, they don't really teach you about being a musician, right? So I started doing that, and then I was the 2013 Canadian Beatbox champion. I won the online World Championship wild card to compete in the World Championships in 2012. So competed at the 2012 World Championships, and then the following was the 2015. Competed there as well. A lot of travel, did international tours. That's how I met my wife as well. She was on a motivational hip hop dance crew, and it's done so much for me over the years, and I still do it when it's mostly inbound now, the business for performing. I'm not as actively marketing that because I have no time with Prompty, but yeah, I still beatbox every day.
Well, James, I'm going to call you at our next event, just to be clear, which might be in May. So we'll put a little star on the calendar for that.
Amazing.
Might have a little interlude of a past guest and also a performer that I have the privilege of meeting. Can you give us a little? Can you give us a little taste?
Oh, of course. You're tuning into Tyler Chisholm and Peter Pan. Thank you.
Dude, amazing. That is the first on Collisions YYC, 507 episodes. It took me that long just to be ready for that kind of a performance on the show, which we are going to use the living heck out of that, my friend. That was so good, man. Not only was I already looking forward, I didn't know this was a nice cherry on top of a nice little Easter egg at the end of this podcast. And I always joke, if you're still listening at an hour and 1 minute in, you were just treated to a rare occurrence. For me, maybe not. Sounds like this is something that's still a big part of your life, which is really amazing, man. That was dope, man. That was total dope. I love it.
Oh, thanks, Tyler. No, thanks for having me. It was a ton of fun.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
3 key things that I mentioned earlier. 1, networking is not working. Like whatever you're doing, you can be doing better, improve your system. Prompty is a tool. Feel free to check it out. Whatever you do, invest in those relationships. They matter. That's really important. Second key point, trust is the ultimate human currency. And number 3, perspective is the most powerful psychological force. So explore trust, explore perspective, and really treasure those relationships and invest in those.
I love it. Get out there and build that 4-legged stool of, what pays the bills, what fills your heart, and where there's actually a market and something that you're good at. I love that. I haven't heard someone drop the Ikigai on for a while, and I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot to be taken away from that as we seem to be constantly challenged with this purpose statement. Yes, and you can unpack that a little bit more, I think, which makes it a little bit more approachable for people sometimes.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Rock and roll, James. That was awesome, man. Cheers.
Cheers. Have a wonderful day.
You too.